So, Andrew, do you want to kick us off since we
Yeah,
we got a lot to get through here
we
today?
do. We do have a lot to go through. So yeah, it's about 2 after. So let's go ahead and dive in. Hi, everybody. I am Andrew Triplett. I am Director of Consulting here at TouchPoint, and presenting with me is Chris Dolan, our VP of Product and Strategy.
Hi, everyone. Excited to be here.
So a little bit of housekeeping. Like Chris said, we actually have a lot to get through because we didn't do one of these last quarter. So this is really pretty almost like 2 quarters worth of information that we're about to throw at you. But as you have questions, please throw those in the Q&A section of Zoom there at the bottom of your screen, or in the Zoom console, wherever that is for you. Quick agenda here. We are going to start by talking through the enhancements to web, and then enhancements to mobile, and then we're going to close things out with Chris talking about what is on the horizon, some future updates as well, which is super exciting. All right. Before we dive in, we really want to encourage everyone, please, if you have not already, please go subscribe to our blog. A lot of what we're going to be talking about today has actually been covered in these blog posts. I'm showing a widget here on the screen of the TouchPoint News section. So hopefully this is turned on your homepage. If it is not, please go turn it on, because this is our best way of communicating with you. This is fed into the blog. So this is really our best way of communicating with our church partners. Anything that has that new tag next to it means it's been published in the last 7 days. We had a big release on Monday, so you're going to see a lot there. We've been enhancing things and posting blogs since then, so please double check that. Perfect example was yesterday we needed to communicate to everybody that we needed them to log out and log back into CheckIn, and so that went through our blog. So really important that you go ahead and subscribe to that. So just click on any one of those blog posts. Over on the right hand side of the screen, you're going to see a section to enter your email address to get subscribed. All right. So with that, let's dive in. So we're going to start with web features, and I'm going to kick it to Chris to talk about tasks and notes.
All right. So, task and notes, spoiler alert, not a new feature. We did release it in the fall, but everybody that was at Summit saw this. But why we wanted to lead with this is because there's been a lot of enhancements that we've added to it over the last several months. So, including in this last release, you now have the ability to customize the email templates that go out related to reminders and notifications. The advanced search has gotten some new bells and whistles. The load more now, we heard, loading 20 at a time was a little tedious. So now you can load up to 200 at a time. Keyword extra questions. We got some great feedback on how churches were using that. We made the ability to merge and delete and edit those a little easier. So check that out if you're not using keyword extra questions. It's a very powerful tool. And the search builder conditions as well. We've added a few new ones. If you haven't checked those out, or if you're not using task and notes, and I will say the vast majority of our churches are using it, and they're using it really well. And it's fun to see, to log in and see how much amazing ministry is happening through this tool. One thing I just wanted to point out is if you're not using it in the mobile app, it is available in the mobile app. And one of the common things I hear from ministry staff is, oh, I'm too busy, or I have back-to-back meetings. It's so easy to pull up your task and literally hit complete. You can click here into the notes field, and you can even dictate with the little microphone there. Hey, I just had a great meeting with Joe. We talked about his marriage. He needs a follow-up, et cetera, et cetera. You can just dictate that and hit submit, and it's right there into your database. So it can't be easier than that. Strongly encourage you to use task and notes and check out some of these new features. Next is SMS. We launched an integration with Ministry by Text. If you were at Summit, you heard about it. It is live. We've added some new bells and whistles. Ministry by Text is similar to Twilio, except they specialize in using short codes, as you'll see on the left, instead of a long digit code. And now reply words and all the same functionality that existed within Twilio is now available with Ministry by Text plus more. So if you're not familiar with that integration, I encourage you to check it out. The other major overhaul that we did was managing the way you manage subscriptions. There's now 2 layers. On the right-hand side, you'll see the allow SMS toggle. That is basically your stop all. If somebody replies stop all, it will toggle that off. And then all of your groups underneath, there's 3 states. You have opted in, which is a little checkbox. The one that's grayed out is opted out. And then there's a neutral state. So if somebody's neither opted in or opted out, you can send a text message to them, and it handles all the compliance messaging, which the carriers require to keep you in compliance, but also respect your congregants' privacy and data. They can easily opt out of that and manage their subscriptions very quickly and very easily. It prevents your staff from, potentially abusing people's data and sending text messages that shouldn't, because all of that is handled through the carrier required compliance messaging. So major updates there. If you're not using text message, encourage you to turn that on, at least turn it on so that you can take advantage of easy login, which is a really great tool in mobile. And we're adding it to more and more of our registrations and other forms as we move forward. So strongly encourage you to use SMS if you're not already. Next, Andrew.
Geographic regions. All right, so this is another one that has been out there for at least a few months. So you may be aware of this. For our church partners that have been using TouchPoint for some time, you may be aware of a feature in TouchPoint called Metro Zips, where you can set up your different zip codes in the system. This is a potential alternative to that feature. Really, really cool feature. I think that this is really cool. Basically, you can go into Google Maps and you can create these polygons. So what I'm showing you there on the screen, this is actually a church here in Memphis. These are our friends at Second Pres here in Memphis, Tennessee. And you see that they've kind of cordoned off different parts of our city. This map is then fed into TouchPoint, and then TouchPoint maps anyone that has an address in the system. It plots those on this map. It's really powerful, because then what we can do is, from a search, you could search, hey, I want to see a list of everyone who lives in downtown, whatever we've defined downtown as, who is a member of our church, but not enrolled in a Bible fellowship class, something of that nature. And it gives us a ton of insight into the people in our database, where they live. Are we, maybe we have some people living in a certain part of our city that we weren't aware of, and we're not doing anything in that area. So we should probably be doing some programming up there as well. So it can really give you a lot of insight into who is in your database and where they live in your city.
Yeah, I'll say, if you're not using either geographic regions or Metro Zips, you should be using one or the other, because it's really helpful in terms of knowing where your people are. I get the question often. It's like, we have so many people in our database. This is one of the ways that you can further segment people, is by where they are. And if you're a church that's really only focused on the local, instead of doing live streams and things and reaching people outside of your area, then this will help you further hone who are these people that maybe visited from out of town, or gave, or used to live here that no longer live here. This is one of those really helpful tools that you should be using one or the other of.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so next, ticketing. So for any of our church partners that are using our ticketing features, a couple enhancements for you. First, on the left-hand side there, we have a new discount code that is specific to ticketing, which is what we call the single-use number of tickets. So you can actually provide a discount that gives someone a certain number of tickets, and then you can even limit those per category. Like, hey, you can choose from any of the red, blue, or green seats, and you can also limit by occurrence, by a specific date of the event. On the right-hand side, we also have a page that is, whenever someone purchases a ticket, they receive their tickets in an email. We now have a page where they can click on a link and go straight to a website. It's essentially a website. It's within your database, where they can see those tickets as well, so they can print them off from there. And a little bit of teaser for later on, this also feeds into mobile app, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. All right, next, going back to more general registrations, we have added the ability to modify your finish registration button. So now, rather than just saying finish registration, it can say whatever you want it to say. So our example on the screen there is count us in, or let's do this, something like that, just so you can set the call to action button to whatever it needs to be, to give you a little bit more flexibility there.
All right, next, if you have not seen the updates that we made to background checks, you should check this out. We basically totally overhauled the way that background checks are done with Protect My Ministry, so that in addition to doing background checks the same way that you used to, which is now called Submit with PII, that stands for personal identifiable information. You can continue to submit background checks that way. Now you can email people a link where they can sign the consent form electronically, as well as submit their information on a secure site through Protect My Ministry. So you now have a new way of doing that, so that you don't have to collect your own consent forms. You don't have to collect your PII, which I know makes a lot of churches very nervous, having your ministry staff collecting that information and making sure it's stored securely. Now you can do all of that electronically. Very powerful tool. And there's new background check types that are available, all kinds of things. Check that out if you haven't seen it already. The next thing here I want to mention is the merge controller got an update as well. So if you have duplicates in your database, the way that you manage those just got easier. So you go, like you're seeing here in this GIF, they do show side by side, but now you're only seeing by default the columns that you need to see. We added all the different columns that potentially could have different information and things that might need to be moved over from one record or another, but you're only seeing the columns that you need to see that have conflicting data. And at the top, if you need to see those additional columns because you want to update a person's record at the same time, you can click a box which will expand that out and let you see all of those different data fields. So merging records just got a lot easier because of that update. The next thing is the prayer request form. You may have seen this, and we'll talk about this when we get into the mobile section, but in our January mobile app release, we launched the ability to submit prayer requests. And now in this last release, we actually launched a form that you can either have a shell around as a standalone TouchPoint page that you can link to from your website, or you can actually embed this form into your own website. There's some code that you have to put in there to create a security exception in your website, but it's super easy to do. And you can even create the CSS on this form so that all the colors and styles look exactly like your website. And this ties into the task and notes feature, where you can actually, when somebody submits it, it will try to match up to a person's record, and it will create either a task or a note, depending on your settings and how you have things configured, which there's some new admin settings for prayer requests that you should check out. But that is a new feature that has been released in this last update. Next are, we heard loud and clear when we launched business profiles that churches would like to see extra values on those business profiles. So we added that back in based on your feedback. So hopefully you've seen that already. That launched this last week, and that will be a helpful feature as you manage business profiles. Next is some things related to finance. On the contribution search page, you now have the ability to update people, either the contribution, the people ID of the contributions, or the fund. So if you have fund names that change and you want certain things to show up properly on the statement, or in the case, the merge controller will move over gifts, but if you had gifts that say were improperly attached to the wrong person in an import, or you had a deceased person that you wanted to move those over to a different person in the family or something like that, you can now mass update that using the contribution page. The next item is on the contribution search page, you have the ability to have a custom export. There's a blog post, as Andrew mentioned, with instructions on how to do this. You create a special content file and you can make that export look however you'd like. So if you want the traditional fields in there, you can put any kind of fields. If you have a special mail merge that you do and you want that laid out a certain way, you can do that export a particular way as a custom export on the contribution search page. The next thing here is two things. If you're using TouchPoint for your recurring giving, you've noticed that if a recurring gift fails for some reason, it will be highlighted in red. And we send notifications to to the finance users. But what we found is that because they're coming in kind of the same thread as the receipts, a lot of finance users just have those filtered out and they don't pay attention to them. So we have added the ability where in your settings, you can actually configure a user to receive a task that will be assigned to them if a gift fails, so that they can follow up with that person and make sure that they get their gift reset so that it keeps processing at the next frequency. The other thing is on the bundles page, we added the column to be able to see the reference ID. Many churches use this to match up to the bundle, the bundle to the deposit. And so it's very helpful at a snapshot to be able to see which bundle matches which deposits. And so that is now visible on the bundle page. And the last thing related to contributions is now donors can edit their own recurring giving. When they log in, you'll see now an edit button there where you can edit either the fund or the amount. If they are changing the frequency or the payment type, they will need to delete and then resave a new one. But now donors can edit the fund or frequency very easily right there on that page. The next thing here is, one more thing related to finance is if you use the notes field, you can now, that notes field has always been a box that you had to, you click on to expand that. A lot of churches wanted that notes field to be more prominent to prompt and encourage more people to use it. And so there's now a setting that will turn that notes field on by default for any fund that you have the notes field turned on. If this is a heavy thing that you use at your church, you'll be excited to hear about something I'm going to talk about here in a few minutes related to this. But if this covers all you need, this feature is there and is helping collect more data about memorial giving and other types of giving where notes are involved.
All right,
Andrew. Yeah, you want to jump in on this one?
So we have some enhancements to check in. These are live. So if you were to go right now and take a look at your check-in profiles, we have two new types of profiles. As you're seeing on the screenshot there, we have standard, continuous admin, and scanning. The two new ones are continuous admin and scanning. Standard is the process that you're familiar with today. Continuous admin, what that is going to do is just basically keep you in a just what it sounds like, continuous admin state, so you don't have to put in the security code to get to admin features. This is designed so that for our church partners that have computers always facing themselves or always facing the volunteer, they have a guest approach a desk, and the volunteer inputs their information from there, gets them enrolled into a class as maybe a guest, and then prints the tickets, prints the labels right from there. The other new profile type is scanning. This is for a few of our church partners that have just said, hey, you know what? We really want to go all in with the pre-check-in feature within the mobile app. So the way that would work is that mom and dad, whoever the guardians are for the child, they check in the children on the app on the way to church or that morning or even in the church building. And then they approach a kiosk and they scan that QR code that's provided. And that's what produces the labels. On the right-hand side of your screen, one of our church partners from Village Bible Church, great church, they provided this example of what they do for their for their scanning kiosk. This is the image that's presented there. It has an arrow that kind of points to the scanner and gives instructions on how to scan so that an individual can just scan that, print the labels, and off they go. Really, really efficient, really quick. And the point that this church partner made to us was, hey, it really helps drive adoption in the mobile app, which I think is just stellar, just fantastic. All right, another check-in update few here. So this is as you're checking in the family and the kiddos. You can see that we've added for the kids the ability to add an emergency contact. In the top right, Elizabeth there, her emergency contact is Ginny Triplet. In the bottom left, Luke there, he does not have an emergency contact. So this would be a great time to go ahead and add an emergency contact for him. You can see Ginny in the bottom right-hand corner. She has a red phone icon next to her name, which indicates that there's no phone number associated with her account or with her profile. So you can actually go ahead and click on that icon to add a phone number right then and there. And then finally, last thing that I'll mention here is you can see that we now have the image icon or the photo icon, so you can now take a picture right from the kiosk. This was something that was supported in previous versions of check-in, and now we brought that back. So Chris, anything to add there on that checkout screen, or excuse me, check-in screen? Sorry.
There, I'll talk about it when we get to checkout, but there's some new things under the admin menu that are coming, and some things that you'll see in the footer that are optional things that you'll see. So
another check-in update is we have cleaned up and just kind of reconfigured the add person to family screen. Just made it a lot cleaner. It's all above the fold now, so you don't have to scroll up and down on the screen to see all the information you can enter. You also have more flexibility on what is required and not required from the screen as well. Okay. All right, and then sticking with check-in internally, we also have the now check-in dashboard. The check-in dashboard has had some enhancements. We've added a few columns that you can see there in our GIF. We've added a column for location, so you can, on the fly, you can modify the location for a class. We've added a column for leaders and a new column as well for checked out, which Chris will talk a little bit about later on. All right, and then from the, let me go back just one second, sorry about that. You can see that from the check-in dashboard, in that GIF, you can see the babies class, and there's an icon that you can click on, which will take you to the next slide, which is the classroom dashboard. All right, so the classroom dashboard is specific to an individual classroom. From here, you can see a list of the kids who have checked in and those who have checked in and are on their way to class. So when we get back to the top of this GIF here in just one second, you're going to see the baby's name highlighted in blue, okay? The highlighted in blue indicates that the child has checked in. When we click on that, we can notify staff from here, but then when we click on the baby's name, we can mark them as present and we can add a note, a very temporary note about the child. So in this case, we're indicating that Charlie needs a diaper change. Then we say yes. Now that note exists here for the teachers to reference, and it exists that week, and then it's gone. And then we can go back here, and this is where we can text mom and dad and the guardians to let parents know, hey, baby is crying and needs some attention. All right. All right, last thing for me, actually I have a few more, sorry. We have now standardized the grade field on the individual's record. So historically, the legacy version of this field allowed you just free-form input, so you were ending up with a lot of different information in there. That field has now been standardized. So we're encouraging all of our churches to convert their grades from the legacy version to the standardized grade field. We have a help article that talks through that, and it talks through some settings that you'll need to know about to turn off the legacy version of grade. All right, now switching gears, let's move on to mobile app. So first thing I'm going to mention in mobile app is now from the task list. So here's my task list in the app. I can navigate to the task, and then I can long press and hold on an individual's picture to take me to the person details page. So again, this is a big convenience, because if my task is that I need to go make a home visit, for example, I might not be able to see their address from the task details, but I can long press and hold on their image to go to their details page and then find their address from there. Yeah. And then another ticketing feature. So I mentioned this earlier, but one of the new ticketing features that we have is that tickets page that I talked about earlier is also available through the app. So in your next ticketing event, maybe for Christmas this year, you can encourage people to purchase tickets, and then they can retrieve those tickets from the app itself. They go to the involvement section, they click on the 3 dots. There's a field there for ticketing, which then takes them straight to their tickets. You can scan tickets right from here as well. You can see we have a QR code on these, so those can be scanned so people can enter the event. All right, alt name. All right, so one of our friends, Rutgers Community Chinese Church, this was a project that they commissioned. We're really excited about this. You now have the ability.
And West Houston Chinese.
And West Houston Chinese Church, yes.
Yes.
Don't want to leave anyone out.
Partnered together on that.
So it was important to them to allow the alt name to be visible from the mobile app as it is in the in the web view. So now any page that presents an individual's name within the app should also include the alt name as well. All right, Chris.
All right, so another thing that launched in one of our last app updates is new option list types. So you now have the ability to add either a description or a photo to your options list to make those prettier. And there's several different ways you can kind of configure that with or without a line. But if you haven't checked that out, strongly encourage you to make those lists a little more visually appealing and gives you some new flexibility and options there. The next thing, Andrew.
Sorry, Chris. We have a lot of questions coming in. I'm just trying to filter through them here. Sorry about that.
Is the classroom dashboard. Andrew talked about it. This is available in the mobile app under those 3 dots for anybody that is a leader of that involvement that has check-in turned on. So really great feature. Your teachers don't need a special device. They can literally pull out their own phone. If they're logged into the mobile app and they're marked as a leader, they can open up and see this classroom dashboard. So if they, see that Audrey Faulkner checked in, they could click on Audrey and go and see Audrey. Well, Audrey is actually a parent in this example, but it's a bad example, but you can actually click and see the parents' names to be able to welcome them by first name. Or if they needed to text the parent, they could do that right here. From there, again, Andrew showed you the ability to add a note or notify staff. All of that is right there available in the mobile app very easily. The next thing is native live streaming. So there's a new tile type within the mobile app where you can actually set the start date and time, what day this tile shows up, and links to the native live streaming. Not all unfortunately, a lot of the free live streaming apps don't support some of this, but if you have a live streaming, most of the paid services support HLS, and that is what's supported here. And it does screen rotation and all kinds of stuff where you can watch the live stream right there within your mobile app. The next thing here is prayer requests. I mentioned this earlier. This is available in the last app release. People can submit prayer requests anonymously or not if they're logged in. And this goes right into task and notes, similar to what I talked about, mirrors what's happening now on the website. And the next thing is our future app release. So we're really excited. We're very close to releasing our next version of the mobile app, and it's going to have some very exciting new features. So let me dive into some of those. From left to right here, we are redoing the way registration is done within the mobile app. And so you might have seen on the involvement search page, the foundations for that, there's a new tab called mobile. I think it's called mobile view. There's some updates that are still coming to that page, but basically you're going to be able to control which involvements registrations will show up there. You'll be able to filter them through some new lookups codes for description, as well as which app location, or you can have them show up in all. And then that page is going to support images, and these will be the beauty of doing registrations right there through the mobile app is that they are authenticated links, so it makes it much quicker and easier for someone to be able to register. And so managing that is going to be a lot easier with this new tab, and that is all coming with our next app release. The middle thing is checkout. So Andrew mentioned that earlier. We're going to be supporting a checkout scanner. The mobile app will have a tool, and there'll be a role for checkout. It already exists on your database, but the mobile app hasn't been updated yet. But there is a checkout scanner where you can scan a parent's QR code to check a child out of a class, and it records the date and timestamp of that kid on the meeting page next to the kid's name on where they've been checked in. The third thing here is group chat is going to be in beta in this release. Really powerful tool that you can turn on per involvement. It's not going to be on by default for churches. We're going to roll this out, test it out. We've added a lot of thought around security and filtering and making sure that we can flag certain things, but we're going to roll this out and test this with a few churches before we roll this out to everybody. And then some things that I'm not showing but are in this list here, we're going to be supporting in-app video. So We already do that with YouTube and Vimeo, but YouTube and Vimeo doesn't actually support in-app. It actually, so we can link to it, but it links out to your YouTube or Vimeo player. If you have an HLS or an MP4 file, if you're hosting those either in an AWS bucket or on your own server somewhere, you can link to those and they will play natively within the app and rotate and play beautifully. We're going to have some new deep links that will be tied into some of the registration stuff, some of the prayer requests. I think even pre-check-in is going to have a deep link now. You'll have the ability to turn on campus as a little flag on somebody's profile in the people search. The new volunteer scheduler, which we'll talk about here in a minute, is going to be linked in the 3 dots under the involvement, so that you'll be able to manage your volunteer commitments through there. And then the new grade field is also, the way we handle grade is going to be updated in the mobile app as well in this next release. So stay tuned for that. It should be coming out in the next couple of weeks. We're in kind of final development and testing, getting everything merged in together and tested before we launch that. So it should be out in April sometime.
So before we go to the next slide, we're getting some woohoos and hallelujahs on the group chat feature there. That is game changer. That is so exciting. We're all pretty pumped about that one.
Yeah, it's going to be a great feature. If you're interested in being a tester of that, let me know. My email is in the invite for this, or if you don't have it, you can email support and they can get you added to that list. We're going to be rolling it out on a smaller scale before we launch it to everybody. So, all right, we got a lot to cover still. Volunteer scheduler. We have the list of people that have signed up for beta. Unfortunately, we're not opening up to any new churches right now because we've got a lot of people that are interested in this. We are kicking off those meetings next week. We have just been doing a lot of internal testing and tweaking of this. We're really excited about the way this tool is coming together. It solves a lot of feedback that we've gotten from churches over the years, and here you can see a mock-up of it. It really works well, and we're really excited to get this in everybody's hands. And I would hope or anticipate that the beta period would be fairly quick because of how much internal testing we've done, and we would hope to get this in everybody's hands this summer at the latest. So the next thing, check out. So you've probably seen this you'll see this in the check-in. There is a new option to be able to add authorize, and it will pull up a box here to be able to add authorized people. This relates to the checkout feature. You'll also see that on a child's registration tab, involvements and registration, the ability to add or manage authorized people there. And then in the check-in page, you'll also, this is something that's going to be supported in the next version, is you'll have these checkboxes where you can use the mobile app QR code for checkout, which means it won't print that security label. And we'll even have a link there that will encourage and drive app adoption, because when you click on that green button, it will actually pull up a deep link to your church's. It'll pull up a QR code that a person can scan with their phone that takes you right to the app store if you don't have the app, so that they can download your app and use it for checkout. That is going to be, we got to time that with the app release and some small little things that we need to finish or release. They're finished on the website that didn't make it into this last release. The next thing here, one-page forms. A lot of people have been asking about this. And this is in development. We've actually got the infrastructure already all done. In fact, I'd say this is like 95% done. We have a lot of testing that we've been doing on this, but it basically allows you to control what fields show up at the top. So here you're seeing just showing first name, last name, email address, and phone number. You can make fields either shown or required. So all those kind of standard fields like phone number or address or gender or marital status, you can either show them or make them required. And then it fills in your regular questions, and then it has the payment form right there at the bottom for you to be able to submit that in one simple, clean page. So I mentioned earlier notes. One of the use cases here, as I have mocked up, is for Easter flowers. So if you wanted to say, is this, in memory of versus in Thanksgiving for, and you could put a person's name, and you could put a relation or a custom donation amount. There's all kinds of ways you could set this up by using all of our different question types. And so this is just one small example I mocked up in preparation of this, but we've mocked up lots of different use cases for this. And the beauty of it is it's a new registration, but it has all the power of our check-in and meetings and attendance and all those things that involvements already have on is attached to our registration. So this will be, I can think of tons of uses for this and can't wait to get this out in people's hands. The next thing here is sites. So we have actually partnered with one of the leading website providers to have we're going to be launching TouchPoint Sites this spring, completely self-hosted, mobile responsive, easy drag and drop editor. And we're going to have integrations directly with TouchPoint, including a new small group finder, those one-page forms that I mentioned, prayer request, plus plans to do a lot more in the future. But this is going to be something that you'll be able to add on as an additional new feature that will be coming in the spring. We talked about it at Summit, but we are actually now testing those integrations and starting to build out some sample sites to be able to show off. So stay tuned for a future webinar when this launches officially, but we just wanted to let you know that this is very close to coming. And I think there's a few more things, Andrew. Yes. Three more things I'll mention. So status flags and engagement scores. These are in development to have a major overhaul. It actually started this week of the way status flags are done to make them easier to manage. And we're actually going to be able to assign points to status flags where status flags will track historically and be able to add up to an engagement score. And you'll be able to see how engaged your people are with an actual physical score that you define based on the criteria that you set for your church. So whether that's attendance or giving or other forms of engagement, you can define that however you want, and it will track that score historically, and you can see where people are either becoming more engaged or less engaged. I'm really excited about this. Two more things: ministry safe integration. So we are excited to be announcing a new integration similar to Protect My Ministry in terms of background checks, but the added benefit is that they actually do abuse prevention training classes as well. And I didn't get a chance to add this into the webinar, so we'll send this out in the notes. But April is Abuse Prevention Month, and I just actually spoke yesterday to the Ministry Safe, the founder and president of Ministry Safe, and he has a special offer that we're going to include a link to in the follow-up email, where April is Abuse Prevention Month, and they are offering their main abuse prevention training for free on their website. So it's something that you should check out. A lot of churches are really, this is becoming a bigger and bigger issue, unfortunately, in today's broken world, with some of the major abuses that we've heard and seen in the news. This is a really great way to hopefully prevent a lot of that potential abuse from happening. And we're really excited to be announcing that integration that is coming later this spring or early summer. And then last, but certainly not least, this is probably one of the most important, so I should have made these load one at a time, but the process builder and automations tool is in development. I was actually, right before this call, meeting with one of the developers on that project, and I am just really excited the way that's coming together. Super easy to use, really powerful tool, and really excited to be, I wanted to take some screenshots and show it off. Maybe we'll do that in one of our next webinars, but stay tuned for that. Very powerful tool that we're very excited about. So, all right, left us a few minutes here. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to try to answer as many questions as we can, but we just thank you for bearing with us as we had a lot of content to go through here. So,
yes. That was
Andrew.
That was a lot. That was a lot to get through. So thank you all for sticking out. A couple questions that we're seeing. Yes, this webinar has been recorded and will be provided, so everyone can can take a look at that. We went pretty quick, so you can go watch back through it. We're seeing a lot of actually really great enhancement requests. I want to, and I think I know Chris completely agrees with this statement. We really value that input. We really value those enhancement requests. Many of the items that you actually saw today were direct results of enhancement requests. So some people are putting questions in here. Can we do this? Can we do that? The answer might be no right now, but we are taking all that feedback. We're going to compile that and we'll process that as a team. Let's see here. A couple that I think we can address.
Here's a great one. What's an example of a process builder or automation use? So I wanted to say that automations and processes automations can be used in processes, but they can also be standalone things. So something that you might want to automate might be a follow-up email, or assigning a task, or creating a task, or adding a note or something about somebody based on something that they did. So that might be an example of an automation. A process is essentially multiple steps, like a membership process, or somebody signing up to be a volunteer. There's multiple steps. They fill out an application, they need a background check, they might need an interview, and then getting them scheduled. So there's multiple steps in that, and certain of those steps and components can be automated as part of that process. So that's a great one to start off with.
Real quick one here from Maureen. Maureen asks, are new features available in Canada or just the US? There's no difference between the system, whether that's in the US or Canada. So all the features that we've been discussing today will be available in both places.
With the I think maybe the caveat with that would be some of the payment processors don't work, and so maybe some of the giving features might be a little bit different depending on your payment processor, but we don't have a different code base for Canada, so everything should be supported, with the exception of maybe if your payment processor isn't supported in Canada. Somebody's asking here about what are options lists used for in the mobile app. So this might be basically, the idea there is if you have a tile that might want to link to nested other links. So I've seen churches say, like, here, ministries, and then that would give you maybe the logo and a link to specific information about all of those different ministries. Or if you want to nest, instead of having one thing be a tile, it could have multiple things that could then nest under that one tile, and you can actually have things options list nested within options list. So another example is like the Sunday bulletin, for example. You might have a morning bulletin or an evening bulletin, or you might have bulletins for each of your different locations or different services, whether it's contemporary or traditional. And so an options list might be a perfect one because it says bulletin on the tile, but then under that, you might actually have an options list to say, what are the different bulletins that might be available to you? So that's one example of how you could use, or several examples of how you might use options lists there. And now you have the ability to put descriptions and photos in there as well.
All right.
So somebody's asking, the view person details, can it be enabled, restricted by user role? There is a way to turn that off if that is something, the view person details, if that's something you want to have disabled for your, I think it's if I can't remember exactly, but I don't remember. I think it can be turned off for anybody that doesn't have the access role. That's not like, so it turns off for org leader only people essentially. But you can follow up with support, and we can get you more information and get that turned off if that's something you don't want to be made available to your lay leaders.
So Chris, we are right at 2:45, so we want to be respectful of everyone's time. We do have some questions still coming in. I will say that we will absolutely be addressing, if we did not get to your question, we'll be addressing it offline before the end of the week. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out. But thank you all so much for tuning in today.